What's up, guys? Jared Moreau here with Before We're 30, episode 9. I'm here with Jonathan on my right. Jonathan, can you tell us a little bit about what you do very quickly for the listeners?
Yeah, hi. Jonathan Kinney. I'm a professional artist. I've been a professional artist for 23 years now. I do a lot of different mediums. Primarily, I airbrush. I'm a body painter, photographer. We do a lot of different things. I run 2 different businesses, Columbus Airbrush and Jonathan Kinney Photography, and those each break down into different genres of the art field.
Awesome. So this show is all about before you get to your job and before you get to that point. So give us a little bit about yourself when you were in, say, maybe high school and transitioning into college. Who were you? Where did you think you would be in the next 5 to 10 years?
Well, just like everybody, I thought I was going to be rich. That didn't turn out quite as easy as I thought it would be.
Yeah.
When I was in high school, I took some art classes, but unfortunately, because of the school system, they were really overcrowded. They're maxed out. So, my art teacher really didn't even recognize that, that I actually had a very big passion for art. Because she was so busy, obviously, trying to cater to the other 32 kids in each class.
Mm-hmm.
So when I was in high school, that's all I really wanted to do. So when I got out of high school, the first thing that I wanted to do was go into business. I actually moved out of state to airbrush in a place in a city a couple hours away, in one of the stores there. And I'd never airbrushed before. I had bought some of the equipment, but I wasn't any good. And when I showed up, the guy said that he would hire me, but he needed to see what I could do. And of course, I had to sell myself. I had to try to talk my skills up, even though I really didn't have it. And I got up there and I started trying to airbrush, and the guy just looks at me after a few minutes and says, "Yeah, well, son, this is a pretty busy shop, and unfortunately, you obviously don't know how to airbrush, And I told him, I said, well, I was like, yeah, but, I can do this or I can do that. And he goes, no, look, this is completely different. This is dealing with equipment too, and there's a lot to this. And he said, look, I'll tell you what, I'm going to let you go and use my stuff. I'm going to let you come in here for the next 2 weeks and let's see if you get any better. And if you get better, we'll hire you. But after 2 weeks, he just looked at me and said, yeah, no. I mean, because, airbrushing is something that takes years to learn how to do. It's not something you're just going to cram into 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So of course, I'm devastated, and I'm like, well, fine, and I went back home and, I told my father, I said, hey, this happened. And he goes, well, maybe this is just always going to be a sideline for you, and so I kept practicing, and eventually I got better, but, there's a lot of pitfalls, through the process.
Yeah. Do me a favor real quick. Grab your mic and push it forward a little bit. There you go. Thank you.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I caught in there was the fact that, when you were in high school or when you were early off, there wasn't really programs set up or things set up in public school to sort of help you with that.
Yep.
And I think that's something that a lot of kids take for granted nowadays, is that there's so many programs and so many opportunities for kids in high school and going into trade school and stuff for artists. When you were back then, do you wish you had those programs?
I wish that it would have been made easier for somebody like me. I had a single mom who didn't, she worked all the time. She didn't have the time or the resources to really be able to, because she was too busy trying to keep a roof over her head and food in her stomach, And I think that a lot of times that different people in different fields, they fall through the cracks, and unfortunately, there's a lot of politics when it comes to teachers now, and it's not like it used to be where the teachers got to really engage with the students and learn about them, and so a lot of times you get such amazing talent that just falls through the cracks, and somebody like myself, for instance, I mean, my art teacher didn't even know that I liked art. I mean, I mean, that's a pretty powerful statement, for somebody who's been doing it for 23, that has done, the things that I've done is, for an actual art teacher, and that is her job to, because it's just sad. There needs to be more programs to where they can recognize the students but that just means that they need more manpower for that, So
definitely. So as you get older, now looking back, do you recognize some of the people who maybe were like you now, where they're trying to get into airbrushing or trying to get into a certain discipline of art, and you're like you're rushing it, like just calm down a little bit, and since you see them now, do you wish you sort of would have took your time in the beginning, and how does that all play out?
Well, I really concentrate on myself, on kids. I really try to notice the kids that you can tell that this is all they have, that their art, they show up, they show me these sketchbooks full of artwork where I can tell that this is all they've done, and it's surprisingly the amount of kids that, you can tell that both their parents work all the time, or that, that they're alone a lot. So this is all they have, and this is their outlet. So anytime I see that, I try to really encourage them to, it's like, look, it's like you have talent, you need to keep pushing this, but, unfortunately, nobody's going to do it for them. So I really try to say, look, you need to do this. You need to look for every avenue you can. You need to talk to people. You ask, is like, okay, this is what I do. What should I do? Yeah. So I always try to recognize it.
Yeah. So a lot of people might be a little bit confused about some of the details of what you do. How day to day do you make money?
Well, they're not the only ones that are confused all the time. I mean, it's myself too. It's so funny. A lot of people ask, how do you make a living at art? As somebody like me, because I get a lot of people. I have a lot of people that follow me. I have a lot of people that in the industry. They do a lot of the same stuff that I do, and they ask, like, well, I don't understand how you're making a living at it, and I'm still doing it, as a part-time thing. I was like, well, the difference is that you have to learn how to do multiple different things, because it's all pieces of the pie. If all I did was one genre of art, it would be a lot more difficult for me to make a living doing just one. I find a lot of times when you see, the art festivals and stuff, I walk around and I talk to different artists, and they're like, oh, I'm an oil painter. And I was like, oh, that's great. I was like, is oil painting? No, I'm just an oil painter. This is what I do. And, it's like, you can do other parts of art too. I mean, I'm a painter, I'm a sculptor, in one day, I can literally, at the end of the day, a lot of times, I'll get on Facebook and I'll joke about it. It's like, okay, so here was my day. I went from this morning, I painted a bike part, to after that I left and I worked on a mural I had to get done. After that I painted, 5 sets of clothes, airbrushing this, and then I had a body painting gig at the end of the day, but I had to shoot that too. So there was my photographer, and that was all in one day. Now, it sounds like a lot, and I mean, trust me, it makes your head spin, because, I've set a very big, large chunk of the pie of the things that I can do. Yeah. But by doing that, it's kind of a checks and balances, because if one area starts getting slow, I still have the other areas to branch off of. Yeah. And honestly, in art, I think that's something that you have to do. I might get an amazing gig that pays really well one time, one every 6 months. Yeah. But those little other pieces, that's what makes up my bills for the month. So it always changes. Yeah. And then obviously, the sales part of it. I mean, I was going to get my haircut yesterday, and I'm talking to the hairstylist, and she's like, "Oh, you do this?" She's, "Oh, can you paint a portrait of this?" And right there, that was an $85 job right there while I was getting my haircut. Yeah. And I mean, that's how it is.
Yeah. So. How important to you and to the industry that you work in? How important is collaboration?
Collaboration is important for growth.
Yeah.
I think, if nothing else. When you collaborate, there was a lot of years, and I'm unfortunately, I fell victim to this. A few businesses that I worked with over the years were very, very competitive, and they were very closed off to other people that did the same thing, and they instilled the idea that competition is a bad thing. That they were. They're taking a job from you and they did this for years and years, and it was the wrong way of thinking. So I had to actually, especially in the past 10 years or so, I've had to go back and relearn that, how important collaboration is. The only way that you grow in any field is you learn off of other artists. This artist has this amazing idea that you never would have thought of, and by talking to them, I've learned more and made my art grow and different skill sets by learning from them. And if I would have closed myself off, for my entire art career, my growth would have been stunted. I would have only gotten so far. So collaboration is very important.
Yeah. So I train MMA a little bit when I'm not working, and that's one of the biggest things in MMA as well. A lot of guys will try to keep techniques and stuff to themselves, but they realize as soon as they start to talk to someone else and start to share their techniques and learn from them, that they grow so much more as a martial artist.
Yeah.
So then going back to, I guess, high school and college years, you said you were raised by a single mom. What was her reaction when you told her that you were thinking about going into the arts and thinking about making money in this career field? Because I feel like a lot of kids nowadays have careers that maybe our parents haven't had or haven't traditionally went into, or that society hasn't traditionally went into. And they find sort of a struggle telling everyone, hey, I want to be a YouTuber, or I want to be, something that's not traditional. So what was her reaction? Not only hers, but other people around you, friends, family, whoever it may be.
Well, fortunately, my mother was actually very, very supportive on what I wanted to do. She was, she always helped. She always pushed. I mean, all the way up into adulthood, she helped. So that side of the encouragement was always there. Now, my father's side of it, oh no. Again, that was something that was very, very tough to deal with. He came from the idea that it's you either own a business or you sell something or and this is the way it was. He felt that art was going to be just a sideline for me, a part-time thing. And that was tough. I had to really overcome that way of thinking. Somebody that I cared about that felt that I wasn't going to be able to do it. Now, as for other people's, that was. A lot of people didn't think, over the years that I would be able to do it. Other artists, no, you're never going to be able to do this. No, you're never going to be able to do that. No, you're never going to make a good living at this, and, I basically had to keep proving them wrong, and proving to myself that it could be done. Today's generation, you can make money doing literally anything that you set your mind out to. For God's sake, there's a kid out there that gets paid, I forget what the amount is, this phenomenal amount of money to play with toys. His name off the top of my head escapes me, but he's 7, 8 years old and he gets paid this astronomical he plays with the toys, he puts it on
amazing.
He puts it, you're telling me that I can play video games for a living.
That's another one. And we've talked about this on so many past episodes of people playing Fortnite and getting millions and millions of dollars.
So what we're gonna do is we're gonna record me playing the video game. We're not even gonna play the video game together. We're gonna record me playing the video game, and I'm gonna make money at this. That alone, just those two jobs right there. It just makes my head spin. It's like, wow, you can just make money doing anything. Mm-hmm. I think this generation is at least blessed in that aspect that this shows that you can do anything that you want to do.
Exactly. Yeah. I think that's one of the greatest assets that we have. But I also think it's kind of a downfall when you're first growing up, because obviously your parents didn't have any of these opportunities. They don't really have a mindset for any of these opportunities. And so your growth in those fields are kind of stunted. When you say, I want to practice Fortnite all day and not do my homework or whatever, it's sort of like your parents look at you sideways and go, that's never going to be a career. That's never going to be an option.
It's a different school. It's a different school of thinking. It's a different generation. Their generation was, okay, so you're going to be a doctor, or you're going to be a lawyer, or you're going to be a teacher, you're going to be a police officer. You had these real concrete jobs, and these were your options. And the thing is that their parents taught them that was the only options. So their way of thinking is actually, it's already been instilled in their thought process. They don't realize that with our generation, it's like you can be a YouTuber, you can do podcasts. There's so many different ways that you can make a living. It's interesting. Our children, they're going to have so many options, and I really think that their way of thinking is going to be so vast. Because of all the different technology there is now, and there's just so many different ways now.
And they're used to growing up with more advanced technology. I see every day like a 2 or 3 year old knowing perfectly how to work an iPad. It's like you can't even speak yet, and you're working that thing.
I was sitting talking to an 8-year-old the other day. And he was trying to explain to me. He was sitting there on his little iPad, you know, and he was sitting there just scrolling through it. I mean, just so fast, and I'm over here watching him work, you know. And I'm like, oh my god. You know, and he goes, oh, no, it's so easy. If you do this, this, and this. And I'm watching him work. And his dexterity, just how fast he is. And I'm watching his eyes, just the way, I'm just like...
It's amazing. And just like you said, I think because of that, because they're raised with this technology, and because they're raised with this different way of thinking, that they're going to be able to go much beyond what we're even able to go.
Oh, yeah.
It's very interesting, and I love looking into those things. It's something that we talk about a lot on this podcast, is the future and where careers are going.
Yeah.
So can you tell us a little bit about where do you think you're going with your art, and where do you think in the next 5 to 10 years, where do you think your journey lies?
Well, it's a good question, actually. You know, I remember 20 years ago, because you know this year will mark my 23rd year of pushing. Wow. Yeah, it's 23. Yeah, it's
that's awesome.
Getting old, man.
Congrats.
Yeah, it's been a long journey. I run into people all the time that. Actually, just this past week, 3 different times I've had people who's like, oh man, you know, he goes, you used to paint stuff for me like 15 years ago, or you know, they're like, man, you used to paint stuff for me when I was a kid. And I was like, well, how old are you? And he goes, man, I'm 25, 30, you know. I'm over here looking at him like, oh, that's awesome. Yeah, he's
Please
like,
walk away.
Yeah, he's like, I used to come to you when I was in middle school. And I'm like, how old are you? He's like, man, I'm almost 30. I'm like, wow, okay. You know, all I wanted to do was make a living. 20 years ago, I just wanted to be able to figure out a way to do that. And then 10 years or so ago, I said, no, I want to be famous. You know, I said, you know, I want people, not just in Ohio, I said, I want people, you know, all over the world to know who I am, you know. And, every year it grows. I do more events. I get more well known, you know, because of the internet now and the way marketing works and all that stuff. You know, I get people from, you know, different countries. Oh, you know, can you come and you know, do this? Can you come and do that? You know, so I've been really fortunate with that. A few things on the docket that I do want to do is I want to start working more with kids and, you know, underprivileged kids that, you know, were in similar situations like I was, you know, where they had a mom, you know, a single mom or single dad, however the dynamics are, you know, or 2 parents that they just work all the time and they're barely getting by. They can't afford to, you know, they can't afford to work with their kids that do have art aspirations, you know, because there's a lot of kids out there, you know, their mom works until 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, you know, and by the time she gets home, she's exhausted, you know, and they don't have any guidance when it comes to the art field, you know, they know they love art, you know, they're living out of this big sketchbook where they've drawn all their hopes and dreams and all that stuff, and there's a lot to art, you know, there's, you know, and
it's tough because, like you said, schools nowadays, I said there's a lot of opportunities, but you look at the class schedule for a kid and it's math, science, you know, there's all these different things, and then there's art.
Yeah.
But art is so much more than just art, and it's just so much more than just one simple general art class. Mm-hmm. There's so much that can go into it, and you know, airbrushing, like you can never get that in school.
No.
And so researching those and having someone like you who can come along and mentor them would be awesome. So
that's definitely, you know, one aspect, and then of course, you know, the other aspect is I really like talking to classes about, you know, about what we just talked about, that you don't have to fit into, you know, this cookie cutter mentality of jobs. You know, it's like you can do whatever you want to do, even, you know, these obscure ones that you don't hear quite as much. You know, I have a friend, his daughter wants to be an actress. You know, it's a very tough field. It really is. But you can do it. I mean, there's so many people that have done it and succeeded at different levels in their life, you know. And they, you know, you'll see these people speak at schools, you know, that have succeeded. But you don't see a lot of actual artists going and doing this, you know. I mean, there's a lot of successful artists out there, but you don't see a lot of them actually going around and do that, trying to inspire them. Every time I do, and it's so funny, I end up talking to 2 or 3 kids in each one of these classes, you know, and their teachers had no idea they were into art. I did one the other day, you know, and the teacher's like, I didn't even know that she was into art. This girl just came in, and it was just like, it was like a floodgate opened up, you know. She's like, you know, I do this, and she's showing me all these pictures, and the teacher's like, I didn't even know she did art. And I'm like, wow. You know, I mean, it's so I want to do it
like an English teacher not knowing her student wanted to be an author.
Yeah, you know, and I don't blame the teachers. I mean, the workload and all the stuff that they have to do. You know, it's unfortunately it's taken away all the time that they really get to connect with the students.
It's the system more than it is the single individual teacher.
It's sad. Yeah. But that's why I think, if there was some programs to where, parents could come, or, their kids could have just a way to come and be able to spend a couple hours, in a class setting, where they're working with the art, where the teacher can actually, engage with the student, and inspire them a little bit, help grow their creativity, help them to learn to work with color instead of just a pencil, I mean, so I want to do those things.
For someone who is in that stage, maybe they're in the stage of finding that they want to be an artist, or finding that they're good at a certain discipline in art. What is your advice to them nowadays? And maybe they're looking at this podcast and they're like, man, I really want to go to one of his classes or his speeches and see what he's all about. But if they're watching right now, what can they do, and what do you advise that someone do if they're into art at this age?
I think you have to decide do you want to do this for a living? Do you want to do this for a hobby? Do you want to do this just for fun, for something to do? All of those are all good answers.
Yeah.
You need to decide what you want out of it first. And, a lot of times it can be tough. I had a friend a couple years ago. She drew a little bit when she was a kid, and she had a lot of emotional issues. And, for depression, for anxiety, art therapy is so important, so I really tried to help her with that and help her push with that, and it helped her so much. She draws these beautiful pictures with watercolor now that are just amazing, and her parents were both concrete type of people. One was a nurse, and another one was he was in the construction field, and they didn't understand art. They didn't understand how important it was, but it helped her so much, and she makes these beautiful pictures now, I mean, just stuff that I'm looking at like, wow, that's so good, and, I tried to help her with that. And I think that a lot of times with people that want to do art, they think that they have to sell, they've got to sell their stuff, and no, that's not what it's about. It's about everybody has some type of artistic passion in it, whether it's music, whether it's art, whether it's acting, whether it's sculpting. There's so many different fields, and they say, well, I'm not artistic. I'm like, no, you are artistic. You just don't know what it is that you identify with the best, but it helps people. So I think that you need to decide what you want. Play around with a bunch of stuff, play around with all of it. You're going to find something that you really like. There's different types of art that are not my favorite, that I look at and like, it just doesn't really interest me. And then there's other ones that I get so excited about, so I would say do that.
Yeah. I also think in general, creativity as a tool for therapy, and just there's so many people who might come home at the end of a long workday and might advantage from doing something creative.
Yes.
I find that, editing videos and doing videos and production and all that stuff.
That is creativity.
I'm so lucky, and I never take for granted that that's my job every day. I don't work at McDonald's. I work doing this creative work.
Photography.
Exactly.
I did not. It's so funny. My mom was actually a photographer for about 14 years. When I was very young, I grew up in my picture taken every day. And she had studios and all that, and she was a fairly successful photographer for her generation. Up until about 10 years ago, maybe, I never got into photography. But then, I needed better pictures of my work, and I would start working, and I would hire photographers to come in and take pictures of my stuff. And I got really big into the body art, and I was having them come in and shoot it, and I was watching them, and I was taking pictures on my cell phone, and I was finding I was really enjoying taking the pictures, and I would see what they would take, and I would take pictures, and I'd like some of my stuff, and I got into it. And I never in a million years thought that I was going to love the art of photography so much. And now, I get so passionate about it. I mean, and I'm working on a computer half the day when I do it. It's just editing. And I hear some of the photographers like, I hate editing. It's like, why? I mean, I'm just sitting here.
It's a trance.
I'm sitting here creating and doing colors and and all this stuff. So. You just got to find the things that click for you. Yeah,
and I think it could be a range of things for people, but I think that sort of outlet for creativity is very important in anyone's life.
Yeah.
Not only an artist by career, but just anyone who's working at the end of the day and coming home and doing something creative, I think can help a lot of people.
It helps your, it helps your mental state. It centers you. People are so go, and they want a pill to fix it,
Yeah.
and they go to the doctor and they say, I have anxiety or I have depression and I don't, I need a fix. But, they forget these holistic traditional things, I mean, there's a reason that adult coloring books have become so popular now, because people with anxiety, these tools, are so perfect, because I myself suffer from severe anxiety, and I get just hyper and all that, and art centers me, it calms me down, I can get entranced in coloring or drawing, and all of a sudden all the stress just dissipates, and so art in general, I mean, it's such an important thing, it's a shame that especially in the schools that they have forgotten that. They keep looking at it as this extra. Oh, you know what? We don't really need that because it's not math based. We don't really need that because it's not history. It's like, no, this right here is everything. This is passion. This is this deals with anxiety and depression,
mental health.
Everything.
It's such a huge thing. I think it's such a huge factor, and like you said, it's very sad that schools can't see the immense value, not only for a career, but for anything else that a student might be going through.
We need that beautiful building, but you know what? It took somebody with creative passion to really get excited about designing that building and making those beautiful, those beautiful buildings that we need and all that. It took somebody getting excited with what color it was going to be, what color is the inside going to be, and it just, they've unfortunately
and nowadays it's insane because there's even more avenues for art. There's video games.
Oh my gosh.
There's so many things that you can do with art and technology combined.
I feel like the art field has actually grown more, and actually become more important now, and they've done less and less, and I'm really hoping that this generation especially are going to really, really see the difference. Because let's face it, look at all the social medias. All the social medias, what do you scroll through looking at? You can scroll through looking at pictures. You scroll through looking at videos. These both things, ding, 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 this is art, man. This is, this is what's life now.
And hopefully as technology grows and as those tools, social media sort of goes everywhere, maybe that creative mindset and creating videos and creating and being good at photography, maybe those will widen. And that would be awesome to see. Going a little bit, and I just want to take this conversation a little bit further into the far future. When we look at stuff like video games and technology and how that's going and stuff, what do you think will be the future of art, and what do you think artists will look like in the next 20 years?
It's a good question. Myself, like I said, because of the different fields, they're all changing. They're all changing. Automotive, it used to be you could come to a guy like me and we would airbrush, let's say, your motorcycle, and we would, they would have to come to us to get this elaborate artwork on it, and this is how we made our living, right? Now, things are changing, now you have vinyl wraps, stuff done by a machine, but done by a computer. Photography. Photography used to have to come to a photographer to get these, to get the skill of editing, to get the skill of lighting. Now there's apps on your phone. Everybody has a camera. In that field alone, there's a lot of talk about that with all the filters. People that are not photographers, they take for granted all those 30 different filters they have on their phone. Well, photographers spent years learning how to do that with a camera. And now it's just an app. So, that's a big issue in the photography industry. So it's going to be different. And honestly, every single avenue, airbrushing shirts and stuff. It used to be the only way that you could get a portrait done on a shirt is have an artist airbrush on it. And now you have direct garment printing. You have sublimation. And these are all affecting people like myself, the art industry. We have to keep learning how to adapt and I don't want to say overcome the technology, but the technology has really been putting an impact on different types of art.
And I think it's interesting because, when we talk about AI, when we talk about robots and what their effect on society is going to be, I think one of the biggest things that I've always keyed into is the fact that, yes, a robot can do so much more better than a human at certain tasks, right? They can be more efficient and more sort of accurate with what they do. but something that robots will never be able to do is be as creative as a human.
True.
And that's something that I think is very important for the art field, and very important for artists to learn how to work with technology.
Yes.
Because there will always be jobs for a creative person.
Mm-hmm.
There might not be a job for a photographer who takes pictures with a camera that's from 2000, but there will always be a job for that photographer if they learn to cope with technology and learn to use it to their advantage.
Well, it's like the drawing pads. Even I have one, but a lot of artists, they don't even draw on paper anymore. Now everything's done with their pad. Yeah. Tattoo artists. My tattoo artist, for instance. He's sitting there taking a picture of this, and he's drawing on his pad while he's sitting there talking to me. He goes, "Hey, what do you think about this color? What do you think about this color?"
It's so much quicker.
I know, and I remember, just 15 years ago, where I sat and watched another tattoo artist that just sitting here for, okay, well, you're gonna need to come back. It's gotta draw this up, and it's just like, wow, it's amazing just what tech it's just changed. And you have to be able to adapt with the technology. It's the only way. Yeah. If you get stuck in an old mindset and you're not willing to accept the paradigm shift of what's happening, you're going to get outdated. It's like the old sign painters. They used to hand paint signs. They didn't accept new technology, and they kind of died out. Yeah. Now they've come back a little bit more. Yeah. They've been making a comeback because of the style. Yeah. But technology, you have to.
And it's in all fields. It's the reason I bring this up is it's not just art. It's if you work in an industry, it's probably going to be impacted by technology.
Yes.
For instance, social media, my sort of job right now. A lot of people are, social media is always changing, and the social media platforms that people are using are always changing. Mm-hmm. And so if you want your message to get to the broadest amount of people, what do you have to do? You have to go to the next social media. Yep. Right now there's TikTok, and TikTok is sort of the new thing, the new kid on the block. And a lot of people are like, I'm not using that. Mm-hmm. And a whole lot of social media people and leaders in the industry are saying, like, why? Like, you have to embrace it. Even if you don't want to, you're gonna have to. Even though you're used to using Facebook, you're used to using Instagram, you got to jump to this new platform because that's where people are going.
Oh yeah, that's the big thing. That is one thing that I do notice with the different age groups too, is the fact that which age group is more likely to use a certain social media. Yeah. You get people in my generation that use Facebook, and that's not to say that younger generations don't use them too, but my generation, we used Facebook. And then you go about 5 years younger, and you'll notice they're using Instagram, and you go 5 years younger than that, and now everybody's using YouTube. Everybody's using it's really different to see the different age groups who use what medias too.
Definitely. As we go into the near future, October, you said you had something very exciting going on.
Oh yeah. Well, I always have big things going on. Yeah. Highball Halloween this year, I'll be downtown. They pick 8 designers every year. And if you've ever been down to Highball Halloween before, it gets around 35,000 people that attend it. So we'll be on stage. I have 4 models that will be painted up. I'm one of the fashion designers for this year, 2019. So each one of us has 4 models, and they go on stage and they get judged. Yeah. It's competition.
Now, for these models, do they say like, "Hey, there's a theme that you have to do and design around," or is it just general?
Well, it's general, but actually, the Highball Halloween actually started more as a Mardi Gras style. Okay. And it's transitioned to, a lot of different types of costumes. Some people do it a Halloween style theme, but it's actually originated as a Mardi Gras style. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So myself, mine's going to be done with a lot of color, body art, a lot of accessories, a lot of pieces. And that's going to be October 12th. So that'll be really exciting. That'd be really good. I always try to get the big shows. And then I just got accepted to the Texas body art competition in El Paso, San Antonio, here for November 9th. So that'll be exciting too. That gets some of the best painters in the world for that. So that's pretty exciting. Craig Tracy will be one of the judges, and then Madeline Greco, 5-time world champion. That'll be a really big one too. I actually just got accepted to that here about 3 or 4 days ago. So that's still big coming up. So never stops.
That's so awesome.
Yeah, it never stops. You hit that and then one more. You know?
When you're at these big events and you're ready to show off what you've created, how crazy is it to see your models walking in front of that many people? Is it nerve-wracking? Are you looking at others' faces like, oh, I hope they like it, I hope they're wowed? Or
I always get nervous, but it's the kind of thing that it dies really quickly. Once you get on there, it's like you get comfortable. As hard as initially you're nervous. Once you get there, you realize, well, it's I'm just in a crowd full of other people, and I end up actually getting very centered once I do that. It's beforehand that I get nervous, but once I'm actually there, I don't know. It's just, I feel like it's kind of like being at an event. You get really nervous for the event, but then once you're there, after about 20 minutes, you're like, okay, I'm at the event. And that's how it is. What's exciting though is to be around that many artists. You're talking about artists all over the world that are amazing artists that have all these different skill sets and different skills that are in their bag that they bring out, they're like, oh, I do this, and you get to learn so much from these amazing people, and it's like you get to talk to them and learn. They're like, oh, and they're explaining how they did it to you, and you're like, oh yeah, I use this, and I'm over here just like, oh my god, why did I think of that? I was like, that's brilliant, And so it's really interesting to get to talk to everybody, and that's why a lot of the other ones do it too, I mean, it's not just the networking, it's not just the the fame of getting your face here and there. It's the fact that you get to collaborate and meet with so many amazing people.
Wow.
I mean, when else do you get to be in a room full of people that you've seen on TV or people that you've only seen in magazines? I mean, Craig Tracy, he was always one of my idols. I don't know if you know who he is, but anytime you've seen the ones where it's like 3 or 4 people painted up as a tiger, that's his stuff, and I actually grew up looking at it and like, oh my gosh, when I grow up to be like that, and having this guy shake my hand, like, whoa, hey, I'm like, wow, it's like, did that just happen? It just happened, so I mean, that's pretty exciting.
How long does it take you? So I'm looking at the picture we have here. For audio listeners, it's a guy painted from head to toe. How long does a body painting like that usually take you?
Well, it all depends on how elaborate it gets. I mean, it can take up to 6 hours. Most of the competitions, you have about 6 hours to paint on your model.
Wow.
6 hours, yeah. So and what's funny is you can do that, and by the last 20 minutes, you wish you had another 2 hours to work on your model.
Wow.
I mean, because it's actually people don't realize the amount of skin. Detail. I mean, think of a tattoo, okay? They're doing this and it's taking them 2 hours for this one small spot. Do the whole body, adding that much detail, And so 6 hours sounds like a long time. For the model, it's a long time. Actually, the models...
That's what I was just going to ask. How do they feel about this whole process?
Honestly, they all get excited about it. The same thing. They like being on stage. It's what they do. But every single one of them, after about 2 hours, they're just like, oh my gosh. And you can see it in their face. They're like, it's like they're giving themselves a pep talk. I can do this. I can do this. I can do this. I mean, the models, they get breaks and they get, food, drinks, all that stuff. But it's very physically demanding on them. It's not easy,
I'm sure you have to stand in a certain pose or them access certain limbs or whatever that you might need.
We have them stand for a certain way for a little while, and then we have to we let them move around and stuff. Try to make them as comfortable as possible. It's one thing to do like when it's private shoots, in a studio. Those might take about 4 hours. Okay, so usually myself personally, I try to stick to about 3.5 hours of painting and then about an hour or so of shooting. So I try to keep it, to around 4 hour blocks. But the competition ones, not only are they getting painted for 6 hours, the events, they may not go on stage until 9 o'clock that night. So, the highball, for instance, when we're doing the interviews for the models, we have a panel of judges and, there's 100, 200 something models coming in, everybody's asking the models questions, so we can decide on who we're going to use and who we're not going to use. And my my 2 questions that I have every single time is like, what's the longest event you've done? And then how do you feel like you have a lot of stamina when it comes to modeling? And of course, the models are like, and it's like, look, because here's the thing. We start at 10 a.m. and it might go until 11 o'clock that night. It's not a 2 hour shoot. A lot of models, it's like they might do a 2 hour shoot, they might do a 3 hour shoot. They're like, oh, I did a 5 hour shoot one time. It's like, yeah, but did you do a 12 hour shoot?
That's insane.
It's with
physically and probably mentally demanding.
With those type of things, it's models that have a lot of stamina. Everybody that's worked with me, they're generally, they leave happy. It was a good experience, the long ones like that. But they're tired at the end of the day. I mean, they worked. It was hard.
Definitely. So now we're going to go into some more of the general questions that I usually ask people. And so one of the first ones I always ask everyone when they come on, what is your idea of success?
Well, what is it the old saying they said, to inspire a few people, make some kids laugh, leave the world a better place than when you found it. I mean, that's success.
Yeah.
Let's face it, if somebody else breathed easier because you were there, that's success.
Yeah.
I've tried to, the older I've got, my idea of success has changed, when I was younger and, a little less experienced with the world, a little less read, I would have said, well, if you have this, that's success. If you have that, that's success. It's like I tell my daughter, I can remember a time when I had a car that it wasn't even going to make it to work, and I remember driving by a car lot and saying that, they had all these Mustangs out there, and I said, oh man, if I just had a Mustang, everything would be better. Well, I ended up getting a Mustang, because I said I'd always wanted, and I got one. And once I had it, there's just another car sitting there, so that was not success to me, I said that if I ever had a house, that then I would be successful if I ever had a house, and then I got the house, and, there it is. House always has work that needs to be done to it, but I don't feel more successful now, it's like, so you think about these things that you think would make you feel successful, and the material things, that's not
one of the most important statistics. I don't know the exact number anymore, but there's a large percentage of CEOs and high earning people in industries who make it to the top, and we see that there's some of the most depressed people in America. And I think it just goes to show that more money and more things that you can buy and more material items doesn't necessarily mean that you're happy. And I personally always equate happiness with success. To me, being happy is where you've been successful, and sustaining that happiness for the rest of your life. That's true success to me.
Well, it's interesting that you bring this up. I read a lot. I read a lot of philosophy books. I read a lot of motivational books. When I was 26, I used to smoke. I used to smoke 2 packs a day, and I was very depressed. And I wanted to change my life. It's like I had done this, and this, but I really wasn't that successful. I just, I felt like I kept failing. And when I started reading these things, I started reading stories about people that, and suicide's a big thing right now that everybody's talking about. Hidden suicide. You had Robin Williams that happened, and well, they would talk about like John Belushi. They would talk about Marilyn Monroe. They would talk about these people who were struggling with this idea of they weren't happy inside, and they thought that when they reached a certain level that they would be happy, and when they got there, they realized they were still unhappy. So a lot of times we don't know what it is that makes us happy. We think that once we attain a car, we think once we attain a house, we think once we attain this perfect job, that it's going to bring us happiness. If you would have said 20 years ago, if I could go back and talk to myself 20 years ago, and say, okay, look, here's what's going to happen in 20 years, just so you know, okay, and be prepared for this, okay? What you're going to do is you're going to have models that call you, that want to pay you to paint them. They're going to be, wearing next to nothing, okay? You're going to have fame. There's going to be people that will call you and email you all the time, okay? People from this country or that country are going to call you and ask you if you can come and do their event. And if at that age I'd be like, oh my God, you can't believe that. But that's the thing, is that with every one of those things, there's the downside to it. You get emails and calls, but the problem is I get emails and calls nonstop. And if I don't answer every one of those emails and calls, then it makes me look bad.
It's the responsibility side that goes along with the success.
Yes, you're going to have models that call you all the time. However, having that type of a job is going to definitely affect with your personal relationships, because let's face it, your wife doesn't want to hear models calling you at 1 o'clock in the morning, sitting there saying, hey, can you come do this shoot and do that shoot, so there's pitfalls with everything, So, you ask about happiness. Myself personally, I've always found that I really enjoy working with kids. I think that, they're very genuine. They're very happy and they're very appreciative. I do a lot of stuff for adults that, where I put my heart and soul into the piece, and they were just like, and so I can do a face painting gig. And I mean, just the quickest butterfly on them, and you would have thought I gave this kid gold, man. I mean, I can work with these kids, talking to these classes, and these kids will come up to me afterwards, and they're just so happy and so appreciative, and I think that that to me is more successful than doing a lot of the stuff that I do. So, but and that's the older I get, the more the more things I learn what makes me happy. But I think it's very important.
Yeah, I think that last line that you just said, as I get older, I notice the more things that make me happy. I think that's the key. I think that's the key to a lot of these mental health issues that we're having right now. Is the fact that what makes you happy, and try to find that and be healthy while you're trying to find that is extremely important.
Yeah.
The next question I'm going to ask, you kind of answered it a little bit, but I'm going to ask it anyway. If you can go back in time to your 20-year-old self and say, hey, these are the 3 things that I've learned and that I think you could use the most right now, 20-year-old John. What are those 3 things?
Exercise. exercise and eat right. That would be number 1. 2, and what's funny is this is the stuff that I keep trying to feed to my daughter, and because she's about to turn 20, and she's in college, and I try to think about all the things that I wanted to go back and tell myself, and here I find myself trying to like, okay, you need to do this now. No, you need to do it. There's a reason you need to do this, and so it's kind of like being in that situation, right? I would have read motivational books and philosophy books like crazy. I didn't start doing any of that till I was about 26, and I wish I would have. You have to feed your mind, man. It's so important, and if you have to feed it with positive things, not negative things. Scrolling through social media for hours at a time, you know what? You're seeing a small glimpse into these people's lives. You're seeing the highlights. You're not seeing the real. You're seeing what they want you to see. You need to read about things, people that have struggles and have overcome them, so that way when your car breaks down in the middle of a Tuesday, when you're on your way to an event, you're on your way to work, you're not going to feel like it's devastating to you, that it's going to get better. I got a friend right now that's going through a lot of problems, she spends a lot of time just scrolling through media, and I'm trying to explain, I'm like, look, things are going to get better. You have to understand everybody goes through these little parts in their life, nobody wants to ride on a straight roller coaster, I mean, you're going to have these ups and downs, but it will get better. So I would tell myself to exercise, eat right, lots of motivational books, because I really think that repetition is the mother of skill, man. You keep reading those, and it will make you make better choices. I think one of the biggest things that tip is really speaks to me, because I think as kids we're told, hey, read. You got to read, and you got to get better at understanding other people and understanding the world and such. And we sort of like, all right, whatever. I'm gonna go play on the playground, or I'm gonna do whatever. And I think that sort of carries with us. And sadly, when you get to 20, reading becomes even more important, because now you're dealing with all the responsibilities of an adult life, right? You're going to college, you're having these big pressures, you got to get these finals in, whatever it may be, and you've already thought, oh, reading's not for me, reading's stupid, it's lame. But not knowing that reading, these books about mental health or about motivation, about careers, reading those books will open your mind up to so much more, and open your mind up to be okay in these very stressful and anxiety-ridden situations. So I think that tip right there spoke to me a lot. Yeah, it's and then obviously I think that savings, because I push my daughter that a lot. Is that you have to learn to save. You do need to pay attention and learn when you're young, to deal with your finances. And I don't mean by just putting a penny away or two. You need to learn how to keep finances okay, and to try not to waste money. I did a lot of wasted money when I was younger, and putting a little bit of money back is important. Finding a way to make some of your money work for you. I realize these people that are more stable financially, there's a reason, because they have certain things that they do, and a lot of times, unfortunately, we're raised by people that don't have an understanding of finances. Like my mother, she didn't have a savings. Finances, no, she lived literally not even paycheck to paycheck, half a paycheck to half a paycheck, and I was never told, it's like, look, you need to put money back, you need to do this and this. I had to learn that from reading books, and when I started doing that, things got more even, so that's what I would go back. And then, honestly, I would say be kind. I would say, the yelling and being angry and being upset about this, that, and the other does absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
It's pointless. And, arguing with anyone, and it's such a waste of energy.
Exactly.
I would have told my younger self that, and that's something that I've had to learn the older I've gotten. That how important is it? How important is it for you to be right? What's it worth?
And it's hard when you're young. It really is, because you have so many emotions and things going on in your life.
No, I'm right, and and no, this person is wrong. Whether it's with your boss, whether it's with your friends, whether it's with a rival competitor's business. It's like in the great scheme of things, man, it doesn't.
You look back on it and you're like, that argument was not worth it.
No, it's like just in the past year, I've watched 3 different people that are even close to me pass away, and that, it makes you analyze your own life, It's like, man, I look at all the times that I got angry or upset about stuff. It's like, man, I could have just talked calmly and said, you know what, this is bothering me, I know you don't feel this way, or, I know we have a difference in opinion on this, but
empathy.
Yeah, it's a big one, man. But that's the thing. You learn that with age, right? I mean, you learn that when you get older. Yeah. You have all these important lessons, but the thing is that's where experience comes in, right? Like when you were younger, you talk to these people that are older, and they're like, there's no reason to get upset, and you're just like, no,
you don't understand.
No, you don't understand, and they're looking at you humbly, like, no, I do understand. And I used to get upset like that, and I just realized it doesn't matter now. So it's what is it? Youth is wasted on the young, and that what they say.
Jonathan, is there anything else you want to get in before we end?
I think it's real important, if nothing else, is you got to be happy, man. You have to decide what you want to do in this life, and you got to do it. You can't let anybody tell you not to. You can't let your circumstances, you can't let your financial situation, how you grew up, what kind of physical ailments you have. I watched a one-handed pool player the other day. One hand, man, playing pool. I watched
Speaking of one-handed, one-armed MMA fighter.
Yes.
Just won his first fight.
Exactly.
What?
I know. I watched this guy the other day, and of course it was online. I was watching him. He was a bricklayer. The man had no feet and one arm, and he's over here just scaling up. And I'm just looking at this guy like, I will never complain because my feet hurt. I mean, you got to be happy. You got to know what you want to do in this life. It's real important that you be nice to everybody in the process, and and you can't give up. And there's going to be a lot of naysayers out there that say you can't do this and that you're not able to do this. And the truth is it's not that they're wrong in saying that, it's that they don't understand. They weren't able to do it, so this is all they know. So they're trying to tell you that you can't. So it doesn't make them bad people for saying that you can't do this. It's just that they don't understand that it's possible. So you have to be, the person that shows them. There's a reason that famous actor goes in front of people, at high school graduations and says, look, understand, you know what? Everybody told me I couldn't, and they tell their story. But I did it, and it's important that you know this, so that way you know you can do it, So that's about it.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you so much for coming on, Jonathan.
Yeah.
If you're listening, if you're watching, this has been Before We're 30, episode 9. Remember, you can catch this on YouTube and also all podcast services, including Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and the rest. Thank you so much for watching, and have a great day.
It was good, man.